2015 is indeed a very special year. It is the 15 years after Security Council Resolution 1325, Ambassador. It's 20 years after the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing, where women created the agenda for empowerment. It is the 15 years, 2015 is also the time where the Millennium Development Goals transformed itself into the Sustainable Development Goals. So, let me say what a joy it is to be here. Mr. Sid Meier, Jenny McGregor, Ambassador Philip Green, Professor Wang Gangwu, distinguished women leaders and friends. First, let me congratulate the organizers for gathering us here tonight on a very critical and important subject. And what an announcement, Ambassador, that you'll be having an annual dialogue. I think that was really very special. I thought of framing the topic of women in leadership within the framework of what I call two wings soaring. And I think those of you who know about the two wings, you know that men in leadership is just one wing of humanity. But for humanity to soar, you need two wings to reach the highest potential of what humanity can achieve. So I thought that that's where I would put it. But let me first start with the context. The context of what I see is critical if we try to discuss why women's leadership is so important in the 21st century at this particular time. It is very important, ladies and gentlemen, because the context where leadership is required today is changing. Asia itself is in the midst of a next transformation. Asia, as you know, has undergone historic transitions. It has reduced more than half the poverty level. It has created an expanding and educated middle class. And today, Asia Pacific stands at the center of gravity of economic recovery. It is a hub, and we have heard this, of international trade, of investment, of technology, of innovation. Yes, Asia is indeed rising. But so is inequality. While parts of Asia are upbeat and modernizing, many countries and communities fall short of their full potential because of the precariousness of jobs and the inability to generate secure and meaningful lives for too many people in our region still. And just some figures. About 743 million people in Asia are still living on less than $1.25 a day. Over 553 million people still go hungry every night. Over 350 million are without safe drinking water. More than 1.5 million people are still without basic sanitation. And nearly 1 billion people have no access to electricity. Asia has the highest death toll resulting from air pollution. I give all these figures because, in other words, despite the Asian miracle, we still have unfinished business. And new risks and vulnerabilities have also appeared. Threats to the Earth's ecosystem have increased. There is intense competition for finite natural resources, including tensions over the maritime boundaries, as our resource-intensive growth models and patterns of urbanization continue, and as newly affluent Asians aspire to higher standards of living. With increasing greenhouse gas emission, changing weather patterns and climate-related disasters would wipe away our development gains and threaten our human future. And there's much that Asia can do in moving forward. And this is indeed the big part of Asia's next transformation. Asian cities dominate and drive our economic transformation. But in so doing, they account for about 70% of all energy use and emit over 70% of all greenhouse gases. Most urban emissions are derived from our buildings, our transport, our waste, our fossil fuel-based energy and industry. The implications for people and our ecosystems are profound. So too are the benefits of innovation and investing to change our production systems and consumption pattern to limit our planet to less than 2 degrees centigrade rise in temperature. And what we will get, and what business will get, will be clean air, water and food, clean water and food, healthy families, and a more sustainable world across generations. In short, there are 3 challenges related to people, planet, and prosperity that Asia must address in its next transition. How do you sustain the Asian miracle of shared prosperity? How do you complete the unfinished people-centered agenda? And how do we care for our planet? These are the defining issues of our time in search of new and enlightened leadership. So as we speak, the climate change challenge is being discussed in Paris, and a global climate agreement is being negotiated with the support of 150 heads of states and government. And in September this year, at the United Nations General Assembly, 193 member states at the highest level adopted the Sustainable Development Goals under the title Transforming Our World, the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. It is a forward-looking, progressive agenda that places both people and the planet at the center of global development efforts. It is a universal, integrated, and human rights-based agenda for societal transformation that simultaneously addresses economic growth, social justice, and environmental stewardship, and highlights the link between peace, development, and human rights, an agenda that leaves no one behind, and a win-win proposition for both nations and people. It presents a historic test and challenge for the international community, for businesses, for civil society, for all communities. It is a universal call to action to transform our world, and parts of Asia are already moving forward to the forefront of action. I say all this because this context is critical in terms of understanding the type of leadership that is needed in the 21st century. Because women's leadership is indispensable for this next big transformation. We have once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to act in order to prevent new problems, to find solutions to our multiple vulnerabilities, and to renew our world to be what it can be. We all agree that to do this, we need transformative change affecting all sectors of our society, our governance system, and our partnerships. The reality of our interdependent, globalizing world demands that we break out of our silos or compartments and move towards a more integrated thinking, using a whole-of-society approach in seeking solutions as our economic, social, and ecological systems are indeed intertwined. Women's leadership is indispensable at this historical crossroad and will determine whether we will succeed or fail to shape a world that is fairer, more inclusive and sustainable for ourselves and for the next generation to come. And why is this? I say this is because women in leadership understands what I term as the 3 Ps: people, partnerships, and principles, which are critical in the search for new strategies to deliver the promise of dignity and a better quality of life for all in our increasingly divided and unsustainable world. The first P is affinity for people, nurturing change agents, including the next generation in terms of mindsets and behavioral change. And this is absolutely critical if we are to actually have a sustainable world. The second is about networking, mobilizing partnerships and alliances among those who seek to define a more sustainable destiny. In our interdependent world of complexities and rapid change, it is almost impossible to do anything alone to create an inclusive and sustainable world. This world cannot be achieved by governments alone, however well-meaning, or the private sector alone. even when this sector tries to be more accountable and generous. Or civil society, community or faith groups alone, however committed or determined. They can only be achieved, this work can only be achieved by networking and genuinely working together across sectors and levels of societies, taking initiatives to forge innovative partnerships that can inspire new energy and transformative change. These vitalized partnerships for inclusive and sustainable development are critically important. Women leaders who have worked to create a world fit for women already understand the power of networking and working across silos. They can harness the ideas, the potential, the talents of the public, private, civil society, faith groups, and citizens everywhere, uniting around problems, generating solutions to co-create our common future. Transformative partnerships of this quality, however, can only be built if they are based on the third P, principles and shared values, shared vision and shared goals of placing people and planet at the center of decision-making, capacity building, and resource allocation. Essentially, this is about recognizing shared needs, common interests, and linked destinies, and aligning private actions and public policies to improve lives and bring about the sustainable future we want. The successful implementation of the Sustainable Development Agenda can only happen if principled and responsible public, private, and I would add people's partnership with mutual accountability at the core is a key feature of implementation at all levels, from the global, regional, national, and local. Principled and responsible partnerships develops trust and a genuine sense of solidarity and community. Again, this is at the heart of the struggles and the leadership that has transformed women's lives across generations. It is only when we developed trust and a genuine sense of community that we're able to engage in the full spectrum of dialogue, cooperation, and action to realize an inclusive and sustainable human future. And this is our biggest hope, as we have only one planet to share. So I, ladies and gentlemen, after giving you all that, will conclude my address with a famous quote. If not now, when? If not us, who? If not together, how? As we prepare for the future, my hope is that with women in leadership, humanity indeed will have wings, two wings soaring in the 21st century, men and women working in unison. I know that many women who come into leadership will not just focus on the public or private purpose just of this generation, but will inspire new energy in this and the next generation to harness the idealism of our people and to evoke that vibrant spirit to move us forward together for an inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous future. So, my dear women leaders, let us rise up to the challenge. Can we? Yes. Yes. Thank you.